Hello, everyone. Welcome. Some of you are new here. Some of you know me. So I'll just take a minute to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me yet. My name is Michelle. I am a feminine embodiment coach and teacher and mentor. I've been running a coaching business for the past 7 years. And in that time, I've mostly been working one-on-one with women, teaching classes in person and online, running workshops and courses to really teach women how to reconnect with their bodies and how to inhabit this dimension of ourselves that lets us live a more full life. So that has been my path over the last almost decade. I've been working with women for about 15 years. After my daughter was born, I started doing postpartum support groups. But in the last 10-ish years, I've transitioned into this whole crazy world of embodiment. And so if you're new to embodiment, I welcome you to this world. There are lots of fun things for you to learn, and it's a very deep rabbit hole. So, like many of you, I'm also multi-passionate. And I'm not just a coach and a teacher. I also like to write poetry. I really like to travel. I've lived outside of the US for many years. I'm currently living in Texas, in North Texas. But the longest I've ever lived anywhere was actually in the UK and London. So I really have enjoyed traveling all around the world. I like to be in nature. I really enjoy hiking. I like to do art with my children. I like to go to ecstatic dance. I spend my time doing many, many different things. And one of those things that I enjoy outside my work life has been over the years my spiritual practice. So, in addition to being a coach and a teacher and mom, I'm also what I have come to think of as a secretly magical woman. So essentially, I've been doing my work in the world. I've been interacting with people. I've been teaching this embodiment thing from a really secular and accessible point of view without any spirituality infused in it. But over the past year, I have started to merge my spiritual life with my work more and more. I've started to, instead of teaching these practices while secretly having my private whole spiritual life that's also informing my work, but that I'm not really bringing into my work, I have really come to start to understand that embodiment, by its nature, is actually a spiritual practice. It is a practice of connecting us with the divine. It's non-denominational. It doesn't have gurus or a lineage or a church or text, so it's really accessible to anyone. But to me, it is this revelation of the indwelling presence of the great mystery that we sometimes call God or source or great spirit or the universe or however you like to refer to that flow of life force energy that moves through all things. And this really is the feminine face of God, that life force that animates matter. It's not transcendent, it's immanent, meaning that it permeates everything. It permeates our bodies, but it also permeates and enlivens all manifest reality, as we're coming to understand, even scientifically, what the yogis and mystics have known for a long time, that everything is energy. There's actually more blank space and energy in matter than there is actual solid material. So, because the feminine face of God is not transcendent, it's incarnate, it's embodied, we don't have to leave our bodies to connect with it. In fact, the body is the medium and the portal. We don't have to empty out into consciousness. We don't have to meditate for hours. We don't have to leave our lives to find the divine. We can connect with it by deepening into our lives, by deepening into our bodies. We can find the sacred in the ordinary, which is a truly feminine mystical path, is to find the sacred in every ordinary moment, to find that everything that we touch can be an altar if we bring a certain kind of attention and presence to it. And our bodies are really the medium that we have to experience the divine, whether we're transcending or whether we're deepening into our lived experience. The body is the medium through which we experience that. And so coming fully into the body, developing more sensitivity and allowing more space in the body for that life force energy to be felt and realized and experienced is one of the beautiful things that we can access with embodiment practice. And it's why I created my online feminine embodiment program, Wild Sacraments. So the name Wild Sacraments dropped in before I fully realized what this amalgamation, this integration, this synthesis of the spiritual and the body, the incarnate, the name Wild Sacraments dropped in before I had a full sense of what that picture was. But now it's even more clear that that's exactly what this is. So sacraments are a way of receiving divine grace. They are these channels through which the grace of divinity flows through. When I first chose the name Wild Sacraments, to me, it felt a little irreverent. It felt a little rebellious to call this feminine embodiment practices wild sacraments. But I do think it's really, really true that the sacraments are not only things that we have to go to a church and have a priest administer for us. They are things that, in the sense of a wild sacrament, they are things that we can access ourselves through our own rituals, through our own awareness, through just everyday life, even. And the wild sacraments are a lens to view feminine embodiment. So the three sacraments are the sacrament of reclamation, the sacrament of liberation, and the sacrament of creation. This is a lens to view this journey of feminine embodiment, which is really the journey of coming back home to our bodies, to our essential life force energy, to reclaim our instinctual wildness, our who we are in our untamed hearts, who we are without all the demands and obligations and stresses of life, who we are in the natural rhythms and wisdom and intelligence that lives in the dimension of our bodies. It's liberation. We're going to talk about that today. That's what this class is about, but it's about liberation from all of those masks and roles and stresses and identities, and also liberation in the sense that how we allow our life force energy to flow through us in a more full and free way. And then creation. So once we break free, return to our essential wildness, our essential intelligence, embodied intelligence, once we free our life force energy, then we learn how to direct that life force energy in the sacrament of creation to co-create with the universe. And so I'm doing these mini masterclasses on these three sacraments just to give you a little taste of what these are, so that you can feel what the flavor of this online program is, if it's something that would be supportive for you on your journey. So today is the sacrament of liberation. A couple weeks ago, I did a class on the sacrament of reclamation. If you want to receive the replay for that, it's on the sales page for Wild Sacraments. So I'll put a link for that in the chat in a little bit. And if you're watching the replay of this, you'll have the link for that in the email with your replay. And then in a few weeks from now, I'll be doing a class on the sacrament of creation, where again, I'll go a bit deeper into that topic on what that means to have this sacrament of creation as part of the feminine embodiment journey. And you'll get a little taster of an embodiment practice, because after all, this is an embodiment course. This is right now today is a class on feminine embodiment. And when we talk about the body, we don't just engage that from the level of the mind and talking about it or listening to me talk about it. It's great to understand those things at the level of the mind. I'm actually a huge fan of intellectual understanding. I want to know why. I want to deepen my understanding in the level of the mind. Why am I doing something? Why does this work? Why does it matter? How do these things connect with each other? But we also need to get the body involved, because that's what we do in embodiment. Depends on the real felt sense. And the real felt sense is where the gold, where the treasure is. We've got to get the body in motion in order to be able to really experience the depth of what feminine embodiment, or somatics more generally, has to offer us. If you're also the type of person who likes and wants to try these practices, but you also want a real solid understanding of the whys and wherefores, my course is great for that, because I do have 50% course material is kind of teaching and understanding. And then the other 50% is practices and classes and things for you to deepen in from that lens of the body. So, as I said, today we are exploring this sacrament of liberation, which is, as we're talking about this embodiment being getting in touch with that indwelling presence of the divine, indwelling presence of life force energy that flows through all of us. Sometimes you may have noticed that our life force energy isn't fully accessible. It's not free to flow. And you may be experiencing that yourself right now. You might feel numb, or you might feel like you're stuck, or like you have a lot of stress and tension in your body. You might have a lot of physical pains, or you might find yourself in repeating patterns or habits. You might find yourself in just repeating situations in your life. You might feel like you have a lot of stuck emotions in your body, or like you're stuck playing certain roles or identities that you might have to perform, or wearing certain masks, or having certain obligations. You might feel like you're stuck and you can't seem to break out of those things. So with this sacrament of liberation, we actually have this dual meaning. We have this freeing our life force energy so that it can flow more freely through this vessel, this dimension of our bodies. But we also have this idea of liberating ourselves from those habits and roles and identities and patterns that seem to keep holding us stuck in these experiences that maybe we, on some level, we don't want to be experiencing anymore, but we can't seem to break out of. So this process of returning to our truest essence and reclaiming that wild, instinctual intelligence and wisdom of our bodies. Because that life force that is uniquely yours, it wants to flow. It wants to flow through you into actualization. It's actually quite painful and energetically demanding to have life force energy that's not able to flow through you. This is where we get things like autoimmune disease, where our life force energy is like inverted into ourselves. It's not able to flow freely through us, and it starts to just eat us alive. Like we see this, I'm sure you've heard of the psychosomatic origins of certain illnesses, that there can be, anger can lead to illness in our bodies, for example, that when this life force energy is not able to freely flow. So that energy wants to flow. It wants to flow freely and fully through us into the world, into actualization. And each of us, each of you is here to express a certain frequency, a note of that divine symphony of the life force energy in the world. And together, all of our notes, they make up this beautiful chorus of the life of the universe. And your body is the instrument that you get to play, to feel, and to express this divine life force energy. And your unique expression of that is really needed. It's needed in the fabric of the whole. So on some level, we have this divine, sacred, holy duty and obligation to come as much as we can into our bodies to allow that life force energy to flow into manifestation, to connect with what wants to flow through us into the world, to be created, to be manifested, to be felt, to be expressed. And so we go really deep with these topics in wild sacraments. And at the end of this class, I'm going to talk a little bit more about wild sacraments. So if you want to hang around towards the end, I'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes just going over what wild sacraments is. If you're interested in that, you can stick around for that. Today, I'm just going to give you a little taste, a little experience of what this is. And if you like this and you want more, there's more in wild sacraments. There's more of this theory. There's more of this understanding what this process is. I teach my fire method for how to release stuck and frozen tension in the body and in the energy field, how to release stuck emotions from the body. And there's lots of actual practices, guided practices, so that you can be guided through how to do this, so that you can have a real felt experience of it. So for the next about 15 minutes, we're going to be in practice together. The first thing that we're going to do is a bit of journaling, and then I'm going to invite you into about 10 minutes of movement in your body. Now, if you've never moved with me before, this practice is called moving what you're feeling, and it means what it says. You cannot do this practice wrong. The only thing that you need to do is notice what you're feeling in the body and ask, how would this have me move? So if I'm feeling tension in my neck, how would that tension in my neck have me move or breathe? If I'm feeling lightness in my heart, how might I come into greater contact with that sensation of lightness in my heart through my movement, my awareness, my breath, and even some sound if that feels available to you? So, again, there's no wrong way to do this practice. We're just getting the body into motion. I'm going to give you some guidance as we're going into the movement piece of this. Um, just two things that I would invite you into when we get to the movement part. And I'll tell you this now so that we can go seamlessly from the journaling into some movement. First thing is, if you can have your eyes closed or a soft gaze, that really supports you having your attention in your body rather than out in the world. Because quite often when we open our eyes, that's when our minds start spinning, we start thinking about things. So we really want to reverse that habit or pattern with this practice. So if we have the eyes closed, it really supports us to be in our bodies, to have our attention inward and not to pop up into the mind and start excessively thinking. And the other invitation is to see if you can keep your body in motion the whole time through this practice. So even if that's just really gently moving your fingers or gently undulating your spine, because one of the really important things, especially with liberation or release somatic practices, is that we need to keep the body in motion to support the body to unwind that tension. The body has a natural intelligence and an instinctual ability to unwind tension, to release tension, to move energy in the body. But we need to get the body and the nervous system in motion for that to happen. So your movements don't need to be big. They don't need to be, jumping around the room. You can be just very subtly moving, but just an invitation to keep the body into motion. It's when we freeze that emotion or energy gets stuck in our bodies and they become what I call frozen tension, which are like stuck, stored little units of somatic depth that we now understand the body stores in the actual tissues of our bodies. So to get in touch with those, to allow them to be opened and to complete and to move back into flow, we want to keep the body in movement. So with that said, we're going to move into an embodied release practice here. This is a bite-sized practice just so you have an opportunity to feel what happens and to try this out in your own body. And how this is going to work, we're going to spend a few minutes journaling. I'll give you a writing prompt, and that's to just bring some things up to the surface for us to work with in the body. And then we'll move seamlessly from there into some movement. And when we go into movement, what's happening is we open the body to feel what's in there. We give a chance for the body to essentially digest and metabolize those emotions, those feelings, those experiences that may be still hanging around in our bodies and our energies and our emotions and our memories that might still be hanging around as these units of stored somatic data, stored frozen tension that we didn't have an opportunity to fully complete and fully digest. So when we open to feel, we open to feel what's there and we bring some movement or some breath or even some sound into the body, we use those technologies of embodiment to digest and metabolize and move those things through. We move the energy in the body that allows those things to be released back into flow, liberated back into flow. So we're going to journal for about 3 minutes. I'm going to give you a prompt and then we'll move into movement and I'll give you some prompts and some guidance before we move into movement. There's going to be 10 minutes of exploration. So for a lot of that, you won't hear me talking. You'll just have an opportunity to engage with the practice on your own. You also won't see me. I'm going to turn my camera off, and that's just so that I don't be a distraction to you here. When we come to this embodied movement practice, it's really important that you move what you're feeling and not worry about, am I doing this right? How do I do this? Or watching somebody else do it, watching me move, for example. It's really important to return to your own deep instinctual wisdom. And we really need to practice doing that because we're really in the practice of looking outside ourselves for what to do and how to move and how to think and what to say and what's okay. So we need to reverse that and put the
focus back on our own inner voice, our own inner impulse, and our own body wisdom for how to move, how to release things from the body. So you also won't see me. This is just you and you. It's an opportunity for you to explore, to feel what's alive in your body, and to give some space for those things to move through you again, back into flow, liberating that life force energy that might be stuck or stagnant or contracted, moving it back into flow. So, you can go ahead and get your journal and you can find a space to practice. I quite like to have just a sheepskin or a yoga mat on the floor. You can even do this just sitting in a chair. So, as I'm getting the music started, you can come to your journal. And I'm just going to invite you for the next 3 or 4 minutes to journal on the following question. What uncomfortable inner tension or stress or contraction would I like to open to let flow more fully? So, where do you have an uncomfortable inner tension, stagnation, stress that you'd like to open to let flow more fully? And that could be something in your physical body, it could be an experience that you're having in your life, it could be a situation or a dynamic that's playing out that you feel frozen around. It could be some energetic tension or stress or stuckness or contraction. It could be uncomfortable emotions. It could even be thoughts, patterns of thoughts that keep repeating that are causing you tension or stress. What uncomfortable inner tension would you like to open to let flow more freely? And you might go ahead and bring your journaling to a close for now. We're going to move into some movements so you can bring yourself onto your mat, onto your practice space. And as the music is getting started here, just taking a moment to arrive in this practice, to arrive to your body. Take a moment to feel the ground underneath you. And with a breath, drawing your awareness into your body and feeling whatever you wrote in the journaling, start to notice what you're holding in your body around this, what you're feeling in your body. When you're ready, you can let your body begin to move however you want to move. You might be noticing tension or contraction in your body. You might notice heaviness or tenderness. There might be numbness or confusion or even pain. There might be thoughts or sensations in the body or energies like heat. Noticing what's happening in your body. And seeing how you might open to allow those sensations to be fully felt, fully engaged with. Seeing if you could drop right into the heart of whatever sensation is alive in your body. Inviting your body to show you what's there that's ready to be felt, what's ready to be released. Inviting your body to show you what no longer serves you. Exploring here with your movements how you can loosen what's stuck, how you can dissolve contractions, how you can soften around any pain. It might be physical, emotional, or mental contractions or tension. Moving and inviting your body to show you how to release as they arise. Trusting the natural intelligence of your body to show you how to move towards release, how to move towards greater flow. I'll be quiet for a few minutes and let you explore this on your own. can bring your movements to a gentle close for now, coming to stillness, letting that practice go. Just take a moment here with your eyes still closed to feel your body. Notice how you feel now. Noticing what may have shifted or opened within you. And in your own time, you can offer your body a gesture of completion, maybe a hand on your heart, or a nod, or a bow to close that practice.
And when you're ready, you can bring yourself back in front of your screen, where I just want to take the next 5 or maybe 10 minutes to talk about wild sacraments. This is a 4 month feminine embodiment immersion, an online course that includes live calls. This is a journey to fully embody your wild feminine radiance and aliveness. Liberate your life force energy and learn how to powerfully co-create your dream life with the universe. This is more than just a course. It's a 4 month transformative journey into feminine embodiment. When you open access to your body, to your embodied innate wisdom and intelligence, your life will change. I promise you that. So you get 6 self-paced online modules, which you can complete at your own pace. And then we have live calls twice a month for guidance and mentorship and sometimes embodiment practice. This is where you can have a chance to meet other women who are on this journey. You can bring your questions, your challenges to me that I can workshop with you, mentor you on, and where we can also go into some practices together. So I usually will bring a theme or a practice to the calls based on the energy that I feel is alive, either in the group or sometimes moving with the energies of the collective or the cycles of the moon, whatever feels like it's alive at the moment. You'll also get access to a growing library of classes and guided practices to deepen your connection with your body. So if you've been wanting to engage in ongoing embodiment practice, there's a whole library in there. Kind of pick and choose what you feel like today, and you'll have guided practices, everything from a few minutes long all the way up to an hour long practice. And you also have ongoing community support in our private online space. So we're not on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, you don't need to worry. We have a private online forum through the platform that hosts the course. So we have an opportunity to engage with each other there as well. I mentioned these 3 sacraments, but here they are again. These are threads that weave through the entire curriculum of this course, and they weave through the entire journey of feminine embodiment, which really is an ongoing journey. It's, in my opinion, it's not something that we do once and then we tick the box and we're done. We don't have to do that anymore. It's like having a yoga practice. If you don't do the practice, then you won't be able to realize the benefits of it. And you kind of do need to do it in an ongoing way. It's not enough to do yoga for a month and get a little bit more flexibility and body awareness. You need to do that in an ongoing way. So these threads are, to me, the main threads that weave through this entire body of work, this entire experience that is the feminine embodiment journey. I mentioned that sacrament of reclamation. This is that first step, but I think that it comes up again and again on our journeys because, we don't transform once and then we're done. Our whole lives are a series of, deaths and rebirths, and in different ways, in different areas of our lives, in different parts of ourselves. So this is where we learn how to return back to reconnection with those deepest parts of ourselves at every phase of our lives. The wisdom of the body, the instincts that we've been taught to ignore. So when we first start this work, there might be a lot of work to do around this because we've been maybe living in patterns that were taught to us or handed to us from childhood. So these can be really deeply embedded things that we need to pick apart. But then it's useful as we go along too, to as we move through our lives, as we continue to grow and evolve, to be able to consistently come back to reclaim what are those deepest parts of myself? How do I get back in touch with those? So that's where that journey begins. But as I said, we spiral back around to it again and again, returning to our sensual energy, returning to our intuition, returning to trust in ourselves. And then that second thread, the sacrament of liberation, this is where we learn how to set our wild feminine power free. This is what we've been talking about today in this class. How do we release things that no longer serve us, the masks that we wear, the roles that we may have outgrown, the stories that keep us small? How do we do that real work of transformation, which, in my opinion, only ever happens when we bring the body along? It's not enough to think yourself into these things. We need to get the body involved. The body is the densest part of us. So, how do we create real change, real transformation is through the body. It's from a bottom up approach. It's not from thinking ourselves there. And that sacrament of liberation, as we talked about today, is also how do we free that life force energy within us? So it's not bound up in stuck emotions or frozen tension, but it's free to flow fully through us, to be fully felt, fully experienced, and fully expressed in the world. And then we come to that sacrament of creation. This is learning how to channel and harness all of that amazing, juicy, unique life force energy that is yours alone to express, that you come into contact with on this feminine embodiment journey, how to channel that into the most aligned, the most soulful action so that you can create essentially the life of your dreams. So you can create a life that feels pleasurable, that feels magical, that feels deeply aligned with who you are and who you want to be. These are the 6 modules in the Wild Sacraments course. We start with Gateway 1, sensitivity. That's the first step, but we need to turn up the volume on what's happening in our embodied experience. Then we go right into release. We learn how to move frozen tension through the body and how to break free from old patterns and stuck emotions and stuck habits. Then we come into pleasure, where you're going to learn my signature flow method to expand our capacity for pleasure. Then we come to Gateway 4, boundaries, which is where we learn how to express our truth while staying open-hearted. There's quite a different lens to boundaries from an embodiment perspective, so you're going to learn all about that. And there's practices that support you in how to bring that alive in your life. Then we come to Gateway 5, magnetism, which is all about how to turn up our natural body magnet. So we're always already magnetic. It's just, are we magnetic to the things that we want to be magnetic to? And if not, how do we shift that? And how do we dial up our natural magnetism to attract exactly what it is that we want to do, be, and have, and create and experience? And then that last gateway, Gateway 6, is all about being and becoming. So that's where we get into who am I now and who am I stepping into? How do I align my inner and outer? And how do I anchor fully into that person that I want to be, into that expanded version of myself that I want to create? We Obviously, this is a feminine embodiment course, so we're going to dive deep with this topic of feminine embodiment. This is where we get out of our head and into our body. This is how we be more full in the way that we inhabit ourselves. And we also get into everyday rituals that are non-dogmatic, but ritual is an embodied experience that helps bring our intentions alive in our lives. They help our practices to be woven more fully and more powerfully into our lives. And then we also have women's circles. So a circle of women is super powerful. Being witnessed and held in relationship in circle is medicine for the feminine soul. So this is something that's included in this course, on the live calls, and in our online space, is that you get to be woven into a circle of women, soul circle, a soul sisters, who are women who are also interested in learning these practices and in moving through the world in a different way. So if you want to feel more pleasure, more vitality, more ease instead of pushing, if you want to feel more alive and connected to your body, if you want more confidence in how to navigate your emotions and how to manage stress, If you want that community aspect, if you want to meet and be supported by other women on a similar path, if you want to cultivate really deep attunement to your intuition and feel radiantly magnetic so that you're able to draw towards you opportunities and connections and things that align with what the highest vision, the highest dream, the highest prayer you have in your life, then this course is for you. Here's what's included again. You get those self-paced 6 modules. You get twice monthly live circles, touch points with me and our community of women. You're going to get tons of guided embodiment practices, both already in the portal and ongoing as we go. The live calls are always recorded and posted in your online space so that you can come back to them again and again. Or if you miss any of the live calls, you can go back to those practices. We have our private online community space. And we also have an option for an ongoing membership. So it is a 4-month program. And then if you want to stay around to continue accessing the library, continue coming to the live calls, continue in the community space, that's available to you. We have 2 payment options for this. There's a monthly access, which is $450 for the 4-month course. That is the total investment for the 4-month course. It's broken down into a $190 enrollment fee and then $65 a month for 4 months. And then you have the option to continue at that $65 a month for as long as you want, and you can cancel anytime. You also have an option to commit to a whole year. So if you know you want to dive deep on this for the next 12 months, you can save $200 over paying month to month with this 1-year access. It's $770 upfront for 12 months, and you'll enjoy that full year of classes, of live calls, and of community. So if you're ready to live your life as an authentic and magical and embodied woman, come and join us in Wild Sacraments. I will post the link in the chat, and you'll also have the link in your email for the replay, so you can come and check out all the information on that and find out how to enroll. All right, my loves. It's been such a joy connecting and journeying with you today. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. You can hit reply to any email that you've received from me. I read every email. I love hearing from you. I would love to hear how these practices impacted you today. If anything came up for you, please do share. And if you have any questions about Wild Sacraments, reach out, and me or someone from my team will get back to you as soon as possible. And if you're interested in coming to my next free class, get on my email list, and we'll be announcing that soon for finding out more about this Sacrament of Creation class that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. All right. Wishing you a magical and wondrous day.